What's going on, guys? So in today's video we're going to be replacing the window motor on this 350, so let's get to it. Alright, so the first thing we're going to have to do is get this door panel off. So there's a little Phillips head screw right there, so we're going to take that off first. So I don't think this is the right screw because it just keeps spinning. So I'm going to use both hands and try to rip this off. Alright, before I get this one off, I'm going to get this off. It's just held on by some clips. You just gotta manhandle it a little bit. So now that that's off, we're gonna go ahead and try to pull this up. Alright, that screw seems to be stuck, so let me try to get that screw out and I'll get back to you guys. Alright guys, so I got that screw out and then this just pops off right afterwards. Then the next thing is a bolt here and a bolt here. Now that those bolts are out, we're just going to pull out on the door because it's just connected by clips, the rest of it. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and leave the door connected to the handle because it doesn't seem to be in my way. But I'm going to take off all these 10mm bolts that are holding this panel on so we can get access to the window motor. Oh man.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Well guys, it looks like we have a much bigger problem. Looks like this window is just being held up by some pieces of wood, so I'm not sure what we need to do now. So I will get back to you guys. Alright guys, so as you can see, the previous owner did some crazy stuff and the window just has boards holding it up. So I'm gonna have to get a window regulator and I'll get back to you guys. Alright guys, so it's a couple days later. Finally got all the parts in the mail. That way we can fix this gnarly mess, get these boards out of here, and get the proper stuff in there. That way we can actually roll the window up and down. So pretty much what I have here is the window motor that I originally bought because that's what I thought the problem was, and this regulator. Altogether it was like 80 bucks, so if you buy them separately you could probably find a way better deal. I saw a bunch of prices together and they were probably like 150 bucks. So let's get this wood out of here and then we could start putting the regulator in. Alright guys, so I'm not too sure how this all goes together because I wasn't able to see what it looked like before, but I got a general idea and I have some bolts that I got from the hardware store and that I had already. So we're gonna mess around, try to get this back together. The motor part is pretty simple. The first thing we need to do is attach this motor to the regulator, and that seems pretty straightforward. It has 6 different holes in the motor and they line up with the holes in the back of the regulator. We're going to use the bolts that I got from the hardware store to put this back together. So the bolts that mount everything together on both the regulator and the motor are the same pitch as the bolts that go through the door. So I just took some of those to the hardware store and got some matches. And I got some that were a little smaller in length for the motor and other parts, so you might want to get some small short ones. So let's mount this motor to the regulator and then we'll get to the next part. Alright guys, so these 3 bolts right here are all to the window motor. So whenever you're trying to change that, you're going to take off these 3 bolts and then this bolt right here and this bolt right here are the bottom bolts of the regulator, and then this bolt right here and that bolt right there are the top bolts of the regulator. If you're trying to change your motor, you'll have to take all 4 of those off and all 3 of these to take this panel out. Either that or unbolt the window through these 2 holes, and then there's another hole right here under the flap. So you'll either unbolt your window from those 2 points and then remove this panel, or unbolt those 3 bolts, those 2 bolts right there, and that bolt, and then the regulator and motor will stay put. So now that we have this all set up, we're gonna install it back on the door, get it plugged in, and then we'll put the window back in. Alright, so now that we have it all put back together, we're gonna plug this cable in and attach it back to the door with all the 10mm bolts. Alright guys, had to take a brief break, but now we're back to it. So now that we got this whole panel reinstalled, we're gonna plug in this controller and make sure that the motors work before we put the window back in. Alright, so the window works again. The motor works fine now. So I lined the holes up that we're going to need to put the bolts through into these big holes right here so that we can put the bolts back. So let's get to putting the window back in. Alright, so now we're just going to slip the window back through the top. Alright, so now that I got the window back on these tracks, you can see there's a hole in the regulator, a little square hole, and then this is the threads to the window. And then there's one more over here. So I'm going to take a bolt and a bigger washer that covers up this hole and bolt this to here. That way the window's attached to it. So we'll get that done, and then it should be done, ready for the door panel. Alright, now that we got the window bolted in, we're going to test it one more time to see if it goes up and down, and then we should be good to go to put the rest of the door panel back on. Alright, it works guys, so there we have it. Alright guys, so there you have it. That's how you replace a window motor and a window regulator. We got this thing fixed back up. It's slowly coming back to life. We're getting little things fixed here and there. If you guys liked the video, like it, subscribe. We got a lot more content coming. Hopefully we can start getting to some more fun stuff here pretty soon once we get all of this little stuff in order. But until next time, you guys have a good one.